Hello, good evening, and welcome to Be More Super. I'm Bryan, your host, and welcome to our first live in quite a while. We've been busy having lives. We've got kids, families, and jobs in the day, but we're here live, and we're going to be every single Wednesday from 8 p.m. You will notice there is a change on the opposite side of the screen. Fudge is living it large on TalkSport. So I've got a very old friend, and we're going to talk about how long we have been friends. It's a wonderful Steve Jones that is going to be joining me as my new co-host. Steve, how are you, my friend?
Well, very old, apparently, according to yourself. But no, it's great to be here. I guess you could say a poor substitute coming in at the last minute. Hopefully, an impact sub for Fudge and
Super sub,
super sub. Yeah, do a bit of the Ronnie Rosenthal of Be More Super, and hopefully share some of my thoughts and insights, and we can have a good chat and get to know everyone.
Exactly. And we've known each other, and we were saying before we came live on air that we've known each other for quite a while. So not only did we work together at Butlins as Redcoats, but we also went to college together many years before. And you gave that time a number on how long we have been friends. And if you want to say how many years we have known each other.
Well, I could count it in decades. Unfortunately, 3 decades, 30 years. 1996, I believe we
That
first
is shocking,
met.
isn't it?
So it's been a long time. But here we are, still chatting. So
I know.
that's
How
that's
amazing
something
is
great.
that? I mean, thing is, I'm so proud of what you've achieved in your life, Steve, because it's really nice to see people as they grow and mature, and you've got a beautiful family. Yes, you're going to nod to that because you're not going to say no to that.
Of course, I'm
Um,
not going to say that.
and with Bad Scripts as well, which is your podcast, I want to give that a shout out. Before we go on to the agenda of what we're going to talk about on this awesome live, what is happening with that? Because many fans out there, if you didn't realize that Steve and our mutual friend Mikey, you did a podcast and you wrote your own story, and it was great, and it was great to listen to. When are we going to get season 2 or season
Well, we've
3?
had season 2, so you've not
Yeah,
very listened to it.
that's what I was
But no,
about to say. I corrected myself
so
right
for
at the
those
end
people
there.
that it's okay, it's all good. Don't think anyone noticed. So for a little bit of background for people, I won't go on for too long, but I'll just let you know. So me and Mike, when we left Butlins, we decided we were going to write a bit of a semi-autobiographical, I guess we call it a vehicle for our own performing careers. We wanted to do something that we could appear in. So we wrote this thing called The Last Resort, and it was very similar, very tongue-in-cheek to the stuff that we'd encountered, and we used a lot of the stories of ourselves. And Bryan, you've seen the show, so you know that a lot of those things actually happened. Most of them sound like they ridiculous and they should never happen, but they did. We found the script that we'd written 20 years ago. That was probably about 5 years ago now, but we'd sent it to a production company and they'd given us some feedback, but we never acted on the feedback. So they didn't turn us down. They just went, we think you need to make the episodes shorter, make it more sitcom-y and stuff. And we just put it on a shelf. So we found it 20 years later. I thought, what we'd do, we'd have a read through, and said, well, why don't we do it and record it and see if anybody else is interested? And it kind of came from there. We wrote a second series because people were listening and wanted more, which was a unique challenge because we had to put ourselves back in the mindset of 2 young scallywags rather than 2 old men. So it became a bit of a thing, and things are still kind of happening there. We're in talks with different people. We've sent some stuff off to the BBC and a few other things. So we'll see what comes of it. There may be a 3rd season, but if we're actively trying to sell the script now and see if we can get it produced. So if anybody out there wants to take it on, then feel free. But you can always tune into we call the scripts, the podcast called Bad Scripts. we weren't sure if it was good or bad, so that's what we called it. So if anyone wants to listen, there's still 2 seasons worth of stuff there they can go and tune into if they like.
It is
And
definitely good, and they need to check it out because the stories are wild. But I guarantee all the viewers out there, a lot of the stories I can relate to. I can remember some of them actually happening. But it's great to hear that potentially we've got more on the horizon because it's such a great show, and it'd be great to see it on TV getting transformed. I think that would be good because I don't think there's anything out there that has ever been, with the exception of
yeah,
Heidi High. Do you know what I mean?
and
So
that's
this is like the modern
and that's
version.
a comparison we get, right? So this is set sort of late 90s, early noughties. So there's a lot of nostalgia for that period at the moment, and we don't have anything like you say on the air like that. I could say Benidorm was a similar sort of thing, and it was
Yeah,
that whole environment of thing that. But this is much more based on the life of the, as we call them, camp coats. Um, and there's people can make their own mind up. Feel free to tune in. We got a few guest appearances from Bryan and a few other of our friends from back in the day. So if people want to have a listen, then please feel free to tune in.
there we go. So tune into that podcast. But we are going to talk about something that has taken the world by storm, and I can't believe it's over. If you listen to certain people online, it isn't over yet because there is a secret episode coming out. But we're going to talk about this, and what we're talking about, of course, is Stranger Things. So Stranger Things ended recently, season 5. We had to wait over 18 months from season 4 to season 5. And it's been hilarious watching the kids grow up over the seasons from little sprouts to now men. Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy to watch. So you've seen season 5. I mean, do you feel that they did the show justice? Do you think the Duffer Brothers actually ended the show correctly? Or do you think we should have had more?
I think you could say people are always going to want more, right? There's
Yeah.
always going to be different versions that people want to see. So everybody wants the ending. I don't think it's in the same league as shall we say, the ending of Game of Thrones, because that really was sort of universally panned. But for me, I felt like
That's
that
if
they
you could
left the
see it
ending.
because it was too dark.
Yeah. For me, I think it was appropriately ambiguous. So it left it with enough that people could make their own interpretation rather than
Yeah.
definitively say what happened to 11 or the rest of them. No spoilers unless people are happy for that. But for
Well, to
me,
be fair,
I
if
felt
they
like
haven't watched it yet, you know, it's their own
who
fault
are they?
because I know it's like the biggest show in the world. But can you believe they started season 5 without a full script? So they filmed the actual season 5, and they were still writing the script as they were shooting the episodes, which I think is crazy.
It, do, Yeah, it doesn't surprise me though. These productions, you see it on movie sets all the time now, where you're getting daily pages coming in, changing things right through, and
Mm.
I think it's probably the modern way of working. They have all that time to write it, but then I suppose when you're on set and you can see things are progressing a certain way, or you get suggestions from cast or writers in the moment, um, it really opens it up to, well, maybe we can work with that, move something around, and I think you know at the end of the day, I don't think it suffered as a result.
No, no. And I was quite surprised to find out that in season 5, Millie Bobby Brown was one of the lowest paid cast in the show because I think the highest paid is obviously Winona Ryder and then David Harbour, but then it filtered down the kids, and Millie Bobby Brown was like the lowest. I quite liked, and this is going to be controversial now, is that the character started to grate on me a bit towards the
Hmm.
end of season 4. And then going into season 5, I'm glad the focus was a bit less on 11 and more on the rest of the gang. Because we all like Dustin. We all, love Will and the cast. And it's just nice to see them shine a bit more, and obviously Max as well. But I mean, Vecna, I think this season he's just basically been amazing. And I didn't know that Jamie that plays Vecna, that's his real voice. There wasn't any effects on it because he's a singer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. It did sound like something had been done there to lower and to gravel his voice, but then when you hear it wasn't, it's like, wow, this guy's got range, right? I mean, you hear his normal talking voice, and he doesn't even sound like Henry. So obviously he's a Brit, and what have you anyway. But just a real chameleon. So I think that added to the authenticity. It was a real great standout performance, and
Mhm.
having watched some of the behind the scenes stuff, you could see the camaraderie there between all the cast members, him included. There was a lot of love there, which is nice to see that it's not too fractious, uh, and like you say, it's good to have an ensemble piece, because I think that's how it started. Really,
Yeah.
we had and it was nice to sort of come back to that and feel like it was the gang again. Got a few things I've got questions about.
Like
Where
what?
was what happened to some of the characters at the end? So 18 months later, and I've forgotten her name off the top of my head, but the nurse, the girlfriend, where did she go? Because literally it ends. We don't know what happened to her. I mean, we can read the assumption that they're not anymore, but she just disappeared, and we don't know what happened to her.
It's true.
And you know,
Yeah.
Mike, my friend, he did bring up what happened to Will's dad. We saw him in like season one, season two, was it? And then he went away and never came back again.
Yeah.
So it was, there's a few questions I might have, but I don't think anything that would make me go, oh no, they need to reshoot that, or we need a new episode. I think, I think, I don't, personal opinion, I don't think there is another episode. I think it was allowed to run with it because it just generates good publicity for it, right? People are talking about it, people are in discussion. So
I think
I feel like,
I think where the rumors had come from with the last episode is that with shows like this, they've got to register with some sort of broadcasting sort of committee or something like that of your episodes, the runtime, and everything like that. And
yeah,
because and then you've got to put an end to the like when a series ends, and because they didn't do that, people are saying, well, wait a second, they haven't announced to this board, this broadcasting board in the States, that it was ending. And again, I don't know if they've done that on purpose or not. I mean, if they did it on purpose, well done. Because, it's made everyone go into a frenzy. It really has. But I quite like the way they ended it. I think that the way that they closed off a lot of the stories, I think they did it in such a heartfelt way. And I don't know about you, but the scene with the books, mate, I was
yeah,
crying. When they were putting the books away, and then
yeah,
the other kids come running down. Oh, mate, I was in tears. I don't know if it's my age or what, but I just cried my eyes out because it was so emotional. And then it continued to be emotional. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what the Duffer Brothers do next, because obviously they're going to continue Stranger Things, but they've said that it's going to be a continuation, but not this story. So it's going to be really
yeah,
weird to see. But then, I mean,
yeah,
I'm loving the memes. I'm loving the internet sort of fandom around this. People using AI to generate their own endings, which I think is quite funny to watch. Especially the ones with Vecna going to a weight loss camp, because obviously Vecna looks different in season 5.
hench Vecna.
Yeah,
But then you've got to remember the damage that was done to him at the end of
yeah,
season 4 by 11. Maybe that's the
yeah.
consequences of it, that
And I think
reformed
it's
and
improved it. I mean, the reason being is that it took 7 hours for Jamie to get in the Vecna sort of outfit. And then now what they did, they just had the head appliance and arms, and the rest was CGI. And that cut the makeup down to 3 hours, which
yeah,
is a lot nicer. And it gives them, I mean, CGI now is incredible. I mean, if anyone watches the behind the scenes, seeing real life how they shot it to what we see on screen, I think it's phenomenal. It really, really is. Were you disappointed with the end where you just had the mind flayer, like the creature at the end. Were you expecting demigorgons? Were you expecting more monsters? Because bearing in mind they're on this other world, um, were you disappointed?
Um, no, because I kind of got it that so the demigorgons were from this planet, and then you had the upside down, which was the wormhole between the two that Vecna had brought them through, and then Earth. So he'd only brought a certain amount through. It wasn't like they were all living there.
Yeah,
So I feel like that was the reason why we didn't see any more of them. I think it perhaps would have been good to have a couple in there just for that danger element, make it feel a little bit more dangerous. I kind of expected them to start turning up, but it didn't happen. But I kind of understood where as well. And I suppose your budget's gonna have to go somewhere. So maybe we stick it on Vecna rather than the demi dogs or anything else. So
it's incredible what they did. Do you feel though this is going to stay alive? Because I've seen so many amazing shows that during the run of the show, the fan base has been incredible, and then as soon as it finishes, people's sort of, I don't know, not love for it, but interest in it sort of dwindles out because obviously people have been getting excited for season 5 because, again, a year and a half's wait. But now it's
yeah.
over. Do you feel that, we're going to it's going to fade away in people's
Well,
thoughts?
I think it could do, but I suppose if they're opening it up to kind of a Stranger Things universe, then there's the opportunity that there's more, like you said, more stories to be told, not necessarily the same characters. So I believe we've got an animated series to come in soon. Is that correct?
Oh, I don't know.
And then possibly other projects. I don't know if I don't know if I just what the internet's not like now. You hear news and stuff all the
Well, if they
time,
haven't,
and
they
you're like,
have
is it
now.
real? Is it, all right? Yeah. Well, we just announced it for them, so
Yeah, we've
good luck,
manifested
guys.
it. Do
Go
you
out
know what
there
I
and,
mean?
do it. But,
We're the
yeah,
Buffer
I would
brothers.
like to see. Yeah, definitely something duff.
Yeah.
No, I think it'd be good to see. And I think you do need to do that. I mean, you look at a lot of other series and and a completely different genre, but things like Bones
Yeah.
in America, the series about the forensic anthropologist, that has
Say
a
that
massive
10
fandom
times.
still. And we finished so forensic anthropologist, yeah. Also, my daughter and my wife are massive fans of Bones, by the way, so they
Are they?
absolutely love it. Yeah, absolutely love it.
Oh,
So they've watched it through time and time again. So I did actually get them some props from the show for Christmas. So
did
yeah, they
you?
were quite happy about it. Yeah,
Oh,
I know you're a prop man yourself, Brian. So
yeah.
I thought I'll take a leaf out of your book, and I got some of Emily Deschanel's earrings from the show for my
Well, do you
wife,
know
and
what? We need to
a pair
try
of
our best to get one of the cast on. That would be
yeah,
hilarious.
that'd be good.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
let's see if we can get them on and have a chat with them about it, and maybe even introduce my daughter if she's here at the time.
Exactly,
She'll probably
exactly.
enjoy that.
But yeah,
All good fun.
I mean, this franchise, is on Netflix, and obviously, the next subject I wanted to talk about is something that is taking the world by storm, because it is the Netflix, you know, buyout of Warner Brothers. So, bearing in mind, Warner Brothers has got over 100 years worth of movies. Netflix is like this superpower, and the figure that's bouncing about is about 82, 83 billion dollars that they are offering to buy Warner Brothers. There's a lot of controversy around it because a lot of people are saying it hasn't been fair, um,
Mm,
and it may never happen. People think that Netflix has bought it, and there's loads of pictures out with the Netflix, emblem, and all these Snyder fans are getting excited because they're thinking that Superman is going to get re-energized by Zack Snyder, which I won't be totally against because I love his films. Um, but what are your thoughts on this sort of merger? Because is it a case of monopoly? Is it a case of, is this
mm,
fair? And what do you feel the effect is going to be on the consumer? Because
mm.
yeah, it's just crazy. 83 billion.
Yeah, it's an amount of money we can't really comprehend, right? You just kind of
Yeah.
think, well, that's just a silly number. If you had to count that, you'd be dead before you finished.
You
It's that
would.
kind of thing. But it reminds me, and I don't know if you've seen the series The Studio with Seth Rogen,
No, no.
where he plays. You've got to watch it. Brilliant show. I know it's won awards. But he becomes the head of a studio, and towards the end, I hope I'm not giving too much away, no spoilers in terms of that. But there's it looks like Amazon are going to buy the studio, and there's panic about that. And there's a sense of, I don't know whether you call it snobbery
Yeah.
around a streaming service owning a traditional uh, movie studio. So it was interesting to see it sort of playing out in real life and how much of that they already knew about. And I mean, I know there's been acquisitions in the past with other studios and things, but um, I'm not 100% against it. I'd say I just think sometimes you can lose the sense of independence of these studios and
Yeah.
things. It feels like if they all come under one umbrella, then you perhaps lose a little bit of that. I mean, it's not an independent little indie studio. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's nice to have that competition, shall we say? And I
Yeah.
think it may reinvigorate Warner Brothers, and you might see even greater things come from them. I suppose it depends how hands-on Netflix are with the running of the studio, and whether they go, well, like, you just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll have all the streaming rights to your back catalogue and whatever you've got going on in the future. We've uh, we've lost a
Excellent.
bit of light there. That's all good.
Do you know what? If
Um,
something doesn't go wrong,
get too
we're not doing
articulate,
it
and
right.
it's like,
You know what I mean?
no, exactly. That's because I'm gesticulating too much. That's my
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, never mind. But yeah, on back on subject, I think as long as it's allowed to exist as an entity on its own, it doesn't just become part of the hive. I
Yeah.
think the Netflix money and the ability to, as a Netflix subscriber, to watch that back catalogue and their new movies, then I'll welcome it on that front.
But the thing is, what price will we have to pay? Because Netflix has gone up in price, I think 3 times over the last 2 years. Now, with the
Yeah.
potential acquisition of Warner Brothers, I mean, they're going to own franchises like Batman, Superman, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and they're going to become the most powerful entertainment company in the world, technically. So, what costs are we going to have to pay as a consumer? To actually watch these shows? Or is it going to be a case of Netflix do own them, but they're going to be their own entity? So Netflix being
Mm.
that umbrella corporation where they just,
Yeah.
own them, they will benefit from the profits, but they won't interfere as much. But saying that,
Yeah.
we're going to end up getting all these HBO shows on Netflix. But how are we going to get affected? Because, the
Mm.
consumer is the ones that are putting the money in their pockets.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and so where does it come from? It's got to
Mm.
come from somewhere, right? And I think it speaks to the whole sort of. I think, and you look back, torrenting and pirating was very big, and then
Mm.
Netflix came and a few other streaming services, and it was like a breath of fresh air. I can get the digital content I want en masse when I want, and it's not ridiculously expensive. But there's so many now. You have to subscribe to 5, 6, 7 different streaming services now just to watch all the shows you might like. Have you got Apple? Have you got Netflix? Have you got Prime? Have you got Paramount Plus? Have you got, there's so many that people are again moving towards the illegal partaking
Yeah.
of movies and TV shows because they simply can't afford to subscribe to everything every month. So maybe bringing them under one umbrella, some of these things does help in that sense, because although it might go up a pound or two for in the UK, it might well mean that we have access to tons more content. So we've seen that with Hulu and Disney Plus. All the Hulu shows that you can see now. They see some ITVX stuff on there and all sorts. So
Mm.
um, if it goes along that line, then I'm all for it. But if they start doubling and tripling the
Yeah.
costs, then
I
It's
mean, look.
kind of a
I mean, looking back at entertainment back in the day. I mean, I used to work at Blockbusters in Colton, in Nottingham,
I
and
remember it well.
I
Yeah,
can't remember how much we charged for a video for the night, but it was a couple of quid. It was like £3, I think it
yeah,
was, and then you go to the cinema. I mean, cinemas now, you take a family of four, you're looking at like 60, 70 quid minimum, and then you've got all the
yeah,
good and the sweets on top. So really, when you look at it, actually, to get a month's worth of entertainment, a touch of a button is incredible. The only other thing that's concerning me is that Netflix has got a very well-known reputation of cancelling shows that are amazing, that the fan base is incredible. I mean, I will mention one, which is Warrior Nun. Warrior Nun was one of the biggest shows on Netflix. The fan base is unbelievable. Netflix cancelled it. The fans went out and paid for posters and signs to be displayed in every major city in the world. They even paid for a giant billboard in front of Netflix's head office to say "Save Warrior Nun." You don't get that with a lot of shows. I think you got it with the OA when that got cancelled. But they've got a reputation of cancelling shows. So will this affect Warner Brothers in the way of their decision making, because they're very money orientated? And then on the other side is that actors, and residuals. So Netflix have got a
yeah,
thing where when actors do a Netflix show, they don't get residuals because Netflix sells or shows these shows in different territories, and the actors don't benefit from it. Warner Brothers, on the other hand, they pay residuals. So if it then gets sold to Europe or whatever, they will get a bit of money. It's not a lot. So my concern is how is this going to affect the entertainment world and actors? Because do we want another actors strike? Because it was needed, but it paused
mm.
everything. And then the next thing that's going to roll on is another writer's strike. I mean, what's your opinion around that?
Well, I think we're seeing it already, aren't we? Because there's talks. Disney have done similar with the new Ahsoka series, and that I know that one of the actors playing one of the witches. Um, I know she probably won't feature as prominently.
Claudia
She's
Black, I think her name is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'd not done my research, it's just from memory what I was thinking about. But apparently, she can't afford the cost of childcare and things because it's being filmed over here in the UK.
Mhm.
She can't afford to come over to the UK and work and take care of her things back in the US with the money that they're going to pay her for that
Which is
in
shocking,
salary.
isn't it?
So it's already you just I think there's just an assumption that if you're working on Star Wars or you're working for one of these big entities that everybody's on megabucks, and it's not
Yeah.
always the case.
No.
A lot of people. There's a top few that make a lot, and then everybody else that's
Yeah.
job to job. So I think you're already kind of seeing it on that front. The budgets are being cut on the studios that already have control. So I wouldn't be surprised if that maybe would be happening with Warner Brothers anyway. And maybe the reason, why are they, is Netflix's approach unwarranted, or has Warner Brothers sort of gone out to sort of
Yeah.
say, we're perhaps looking for more investment? It depends on the approach there, I guess. And um, I think it's the world changing, the world economy, and this is not the place to discuss politics, but I think it all impacts that side of things. So we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. But I'd like to hope that, like we said, they're a bit more hands offish in terms of what projects they allow to mature. And when you consider in the past, especially in British TV and film, there's a lot of programs, especially that weren't super popular in the first and second season. Yet they matured and developed
Yeah.
because they were given time to. And Only Fools and Horses is one like that. Didn't have great viewing figures in the first season or two, but actually became a national institution. And still, it's not been on air for 15, 20 years, but it's still so warmly regarded. There's the chance you're going to miss out on that kind of great content, as you said, with things like Warrior Nun, because there's a short term. We've got to if the viewing numbers are down, they're not going to pick back up. But that's not
Yeah.
necessarily the case. So I'd hope that there's a little bit of time given to things, but maybe it's just the way the world is now.
I mean, one positive though is that there's been so many good Netflix movies that I've always thought would be amazing to watch in the cinema. So would this be a
Mm.
case of, it's going to affect the theaters in some way because people are worried that, these films that are going to get released are going to get released for a shorter time in the theaters and then go straight onto Netflix streaming. But on the flip side of the coin, you've got films like The Rip, that's just been released with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon on Netflix. And honestly, it's one of the best watches I've had in a long, long time. It's such a great film. If anyone out there hasn't watched it yet, check it out. It's just great writing and the look of the film, and a great cast. It's got Stephen Yen from Walking Dead, as well as some familiar faces from SWAT, which is a TV series in the States as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to that. And if it brings things to the theatre, or vice versa on the flip of the coin. But it's funny you say about actors not earning a lot and coming over to the UK. I think when the actors' strikes happened, I think that I forgot her name now. She was the woman that played the nanny. She was the president because it's Sean Astin now that's president of the Union of SAG-AFTRA. AFTRA.
Mm.
But he was saying that I think it's 85% of paid actors currently are not earning enough to get healthcare,
Yeah.
which I think is shocking because, as you said, you get the ones that are really well paid, and then, a few that's really well paid, and then a lot that are not. And for viewers out there, you'll be pretty shocked at how much these people actually do get paid, especially voice actors. I was talking
Mm.
to Elias Tufekis, who is a very well established voice actor, done voices for Assassin's Creed, Duex, so many things. And he's saying he's lucky if he brings home, after everything, about $1,500 a month. And then when
Wow.
you consider what that is in English pound, mate,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? It's like, surely the
And
amount of
it's
money that
and the
we're,
cost of living in America, the cost of,
oh,
I mean, I was
in
there
LA,
last year,
yeah,
and the cost of food and stuff is just incredible now in the US now compared to how it was say 10 years ago. It is unbelievable. You need to be earning sort of double that to just scrape by, which is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not now. I can remember when it was like $1.50 to the pound. Now we're lucky to get, I think it's $1.20. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, let's see what happens. It might not go through. It might get stopped because if they do go through, they're going to be like a superpower. But hey, we don't know. We're not mind readers. It could be a positive thing or it could be a negative thing. Only time will tell. And then we go on to what is happening tomorrow, which is the nominations for the Oscars are going to be released. And I used to watch the Oscars. Funny story. I can remember when I went to New York for the first time, Steve. I was staying with, at the time, family in Manhattan, and was watching TV, and on the screen of the Oscars, Samantha Morton was on it. And I can remember thinking to myself, how my life could have been different if I just continued. Um, but yeah, the
Yeah.
Oscars, is it the same? Or has it changed over the years? It is happening tomorrow, the nominations. Do you know how much weight does it have in the industry now? Does it still make or break actors? Does it still, if a young actor wins an Oscar, is that their career sorted for the rest of their life? I mean, look what happened to the young actor at the Golden Globes that was in, is it Adolescence? Um,
Yeah.
now, I mean, he was there taking pictures with like Leonardo DiCaprio and, Snoop Dogg and all them lot. I mean, I think his career is sorted now, to be fair. But do you think the Oscars have got the same weight as they did 10, 15 years ago?
I think there's definitely still it's still the top award for any film actor, right, or film producer, or makeup artist, or anyone. I guess it's still the pinnacle. You could align it in the UK to the FA Cup being the most prestigious tournament in football, as far as domestic games concerned. So there's a channeling a bit of fudge there for you. But
You know, every time he did
but
that, I
over
didn't even
time,
understand a word he was saying because I'm not into football.
well, I was trying to make it as a general analogy as I could, but
Yeah,
no, I think that sense of, because the sheer volume of TV shows, movies, things we see these days, like you say, from streaming services, um, it's such a turnover business. Everything churns 200 miles an hour. Um, it does feel like I see the nominations and I haven't seen half of the movies. It
yeah.
used to be there'd maybe be a couple of new movies every month, and then you'd go and see them. Now it feels like if you're not going for a couple of weeks, they've already been and had their run and they've gone, or they're not showing them on general release because they're what some would consider too artsy for general release. But then they make it to the Oscars, and you have to sort of hunt them down across one of the many streaming services that are out there. Um, I still put, I still think it's, controversy aside from people being slapped and things like that. It's
Mm,
definitely, I think, the pinnacle still. And I think it holds some weight. Um, but I don't think there's the awe that there perhaps was for actors who got the Oscars, who won the awards. That basically that was their made for life. I think you still have to keep proving that you're capable, and that you're a box office draw these days. Because,
mm,
like you say, things get cancelled really quickly these days, and a lot of actors who wouldn't be seen on TV are signing up for big series, and the
mm.
budgets are going over to those. So it's a changing landscape, but I still think at the moment it's definitely the pinnacle in terms of award ceremonies.
I mean, for me, what annoys me is that to qualify for the Oscars, your film has got to be in the theatre, in the cinema. And not all films can get into the cinema because it's a lot of money to actually get your films into
Yeah,
theatres. And there's so many films that are video on demand, that are streaming, that I just think a hell of a lot better. But one of the films nominated for Best Picture, we were talking about it, which was Sinners, which I've got to
yeah,
say, such a great film, and the soundtrack is unbelievable.
Mhm.
I mean, we were saying that it reminded
Fantastic.
me from Dusk Till Dawn, the Quentin Tarantino film, because I went into that when I was very young, watching it, thinking it was just a film about these robbers that go on the run, and before you knew it, they were vampires. And it was the same feeling for
Yeah.
this film. I mean, why do you think? I mean, they're up against one battle after another, Hamnet, as well as Sentimental Value. I mean, why do you think Sinners could potentially win the Best Picture?
Well, I suppose, speaking from someone who's only seen Sinners and not the others yet, um, I think beautifully shot. I think it looks
Mm,
incredible. I think the work to make Michael B. Jordan twins. I've seen it discussed online with the SFX. To passing cigarettes to himself and stuff, and smoking them, and then passing them back. All of that stuff is done in such a way that it doesn't distract from the film. You feel like there's definitely two characters there. I think the story is really interesting. The sort of 30s era. There's mention of Capone in there. There's I love how it goes on a journey, and it sort of like similar to From Dusk to Dawn. The whole feel and genre of the movie changes halfway through, and you're
yeah.
like, well, okay, this is happening. You've got the Ku Klux Klan mentioned in there very briefly, and you think the film's ended, and then there's another surprise, and then even through the credits, there's more surprises.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've just felt like it kept me enthralled right through. And there's not many movies. I think maybe it's my old age that keep me interested to see what's going to happen next. You watch things and they're so formulaic, but it felt really refreshing that you didn't know what was going to happen. Everybody was at stake in terms of people living and dying. They're killing people off left, right, and centre, and you're like, whoa, okay, so that person's not surviving. And yeah, I just thought it was all round well acted. The script was interesting as well, and it just felt like an original story, something different. And I dismissed it before seeing it because I didn't really understand what it was, and it didn't really appeal to me too much. And then when I tuned in, I thought, you know what, I was wrong. Happy to admit that. Really enjoyed it as a movie, and I think it will get a few nominations across there. Obviously Brian Coolidge is directed, and I think he might be nominated. We'll have to see tomorrow.
Well, yeah. So tomorrow we might have some, surprises on the nominations. Obviously, if you feel that a movie that you've watched recently deserves an Oscar, please comment on this show on what film that you'd like potentially to win an Oscar. But the great thing I'm excited about is next year in the 2027 Oscars, we're going to see the introduction of a brand new category, which is dedicated to the stunt community. So the stunt community hasn't had a category in the Oscars, which I just think's incredible because you've got one for costume, editing, sound, everything except for the stunt community, and
Yeah.
they literally risk, life and limb to bring us this
Yeah.
excitement. Even though we get CGI, there's a lot of stunt performers out there doing incredible work. So I really cannot wait. But then when we go to obviously the end of the show, which is coming up very, very soon, have you got a recommendation, Steve, on a film that people may not have realized is out, that could be a hidden gem that people need to go and watch? Because I've got one that I watched the other day and I just think it's incredible. And I didn't really know about it. I stumbled across it. So what's your recommendation? Have you
Right.
got one?
Well, I'll let you go first. I'm going to have a little think about it because I was thinking
Okay.
before the show if there was anything, but I'm still sort of torn a bit, and I'm like, So you tell me what's
So
what's your recommendation?
there is a film that to watch it, it's incredible on your eyes, the colors, the set design, the costume, but the story itself is incredible. It stars Mad Michelson and it's called Dust Bunny. And it's such an incredible story. It's about a girl that hires a man across the hall in her apartment building to kill the monster under her bed. That's all I'm going to say. And from that, you
Wow.
think, what? But then when you watch it, the performances, you see that to me, that film definitely, without a doubt, Oscar worthy because the performances, the young girl in it, she's incredible. But Mad Michelson, I just think Mads is just amazing. He doesn't really have to do much acting because literally he could stand there and sell a can of baked beans. Do you know what I mean? But great film. Dust Bunny. It's got a great cast. Go and watch it. It's on demand now. It's a great film. That is my recommendation for this week.
Now, can I give you an older movie? Maybe
Of course you
does it
can. Of
have to be
course you
something
can.
that's new out
Yeah.
there? Or something? So, for those people that haven't seen it, and it stars somebody that I've got family connections with, was a film, and you can't really. It's not so easy to get hold of. So I don't know if and that's Dead Man's Shoes. So
Oh,
that was a movie. It starred Paddy Considine, and yeah, it's an incredibly moving, insightful, violent, and heart wrenching movie, but so brilliantly acted. And somebody in the film whose performance, is second to none was Toby Kebbell, and another Nottingham boy.
yeah.
So to us, and he actually was in the Central Television Workshop back in the day,
Oh God.
and my sister-in-law used to used to do costumes for him, and then when you see him in things like uh, Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titans, he was in, and was it the Sorcerer's Apprentice and things. But for me, that breakout role in Dead Man's Shoes was just incredible. His performance is phenomenal. And anybody that hasn't seen it, hunt it down because it's incredibly grounded, incredibly thought provoking, and just a thriller from start to end.
And you know what? You don't really hear much about Shane Meadows anymore because he was obviously the filmmaker behind that film, and
Yeah,
he's such a great filmmaker. Once upon a time in the Midlands,
unbelievable.
I think it was in
Yeah,
1980.
yeah.
So
This is England,
yeah, yeah,
24/7. You know,
yeah,
all
24/7.
great films.
Yeah,
Yeah, work with some great actors like
yeah,
and James Corden, and a few other people too.
yeah,
So
yeah. So this is going to happen every single week. We are planning some great guests. We've got some great guests lined up from some great movies, and we want to get everyone involved. So by all means, share, like, and subscribe. I always sound like a right noob when I'm saying that. I feel like I'm like a teenager that spends too much time on TikTok. But yeah, join us on this journey. This is going to be a weekly live stream. We want to get everyone involved. If you've got any recommendations of any guests that you would like to appear on the actual live stream, let us know because we want to get everyone involved and we want to get this stream going. And then eventually we want to be visiting places, going to conventions, meeting up with people in the real world. So by all means, hit
yeah.
subscribe, like on whichever platform that you're watching on, because we are going to be streaming. The plan was to be streaming live on Facebook, but obviously the gremlins have got into my software and decided, no, you're not going to be going on Facebook tonight, but I'm going to fix that for next week. But Steve, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and it wasn't as painful as you probably would have imagined. And mate, it's been a pleasure having you on. I can't wait for this journey to happen.
I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed myself immensely. Hopefully, we haven't bored everyone too much. But yeah, like you say, it'd be lovely to have people's opinions on those things because we know, everybody's got a different view on these things. So it's always good to see what people are thinking about things out there. And I look forward to reading more of them and chatting to you all again next week.
Yes, excellent. Well, thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in, that's watched. We'll see you next week at the same time, 8 p.m. UK time, 12 noon PT time. So look after yourself, keep safe, and stay super. And we're signing off. Thank you, Steve. I'll see you next week.